Content warning: this story contains mentions of sexual assault. The first body was found on October 4 months later, 18-year-old Cindy Hudspeth, her nude body found in the trunk of her own Datsun, which had been pushed off the edge of the Angeles Crest Highway, was identified as the 10th known victim of the serial killer terrorizing Los Angeles dubbed the Hillside Strangler. Peacock's new 4-part docuseries The Hillside Strangler, Devil in Disguise dives into the year-long manhunt, the complicated criminal trial, and, perhaps most poignantly, the fear that blanketed the City of Angels while the killers were on the loose. Yes, one of the more salient points to remember is that there were, in fact, 2 killers working together. There was never any doubt in my mind that there were at least 2 suspects, retired homicide detective Pete Finnegan recalled in the series. And when one was arrested, his thought was, "I wonder where the other guy is." Kimberly Diane Martin, 17, had started working for an escort service. Call girl was the term at the time, because she was too afraid to work the streets with the strangler on the loose, but she was the girl who was dispatched when the killers called the service. Alyssa Caston, 21, worked as a waitress and was a member of the dance troupe the L.A. Knockers. Dolores Dolly Sapita, 12, and Sonia Marie Johnson, 14, took a short bus ride home from the mall in Eagle Rock to Highland Park together, then were found by a 9-year-old boy hunting for treasure on a trash heap near Chavez Ravine. Christina Weckler, 20, a student at the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, aspiring actress Jane Evelyn King, 28, and Lauren Ray Wagner, 18, a college student who lived with her parents in the San Fernando Valley, were found between November 2029. The method was mostly the same: all female victims, all strangled, all showing signs of sexual assault and torture. Wagner, who had burn marks on her palms, was abducted just across the street from her family's house. A neighbor told police she heard someone cry, "You won't get away with this," that night, and when she looked outside she saw 2 men. The woman also told detectives, when pressed about why she didn't call police, that she herself was a rape victim and had become paralyzed with fear as the memories came flooding back. But as one tenant told police, screams in that building weren't unusual. But then Hudspeth was found in February, strangled and dumped on a hillside, though along with her entire car, which was a shift in the pattern. Rodney Alcala had already been in prison for decades when he was convicted of Barcomb's murder in 2010. He died behind bars in 2021. How did police catch the Hillside Strangler? After Hudspeth, however, the killings attributed to the Strangler did stop, at least in California. On suspicion of murder, he had strangled 2 Western Washington University students, Karen Mandick, 22, and Diane Wilder, 27, on Jan. 11, after luring them into a house where he was working as a security guard. Finding a Los Angeles driver's license on Bianchi, local police reached out to the L. Bianchi's address matching one of the victims was the only alarm bell authorities needed. His only known associate was his cousin Angelo Buono Jr., an auto upholsterer who owned his own shop on Colorado Boulevard in Glendale. Questioned by investigators, the 44-year-old divorced father of 5 denied knowing anything about the Hillside Strangler killings. Bianchi also initially denied having anything to do with the L. Buono was arrested on October 22, 1979, and charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder, assault, rape and other related charges. Who was the copycat strangler? In June 1980, Veronica Compton of Los Angeles started writing to Bianchi in jail, obviously enamored with the suspected serial killer. Compton did go up to Washington and tried to strangle 26-year-old Kim Breed. Dubbed the copycat strangler, Compton ended up sentenced to life in prison for attempted murder. She was a bizarre character, prosecutor Dave McEachran, who was involved with both Compton and Bianchi's cases in Washington, told A&E True Crime in 2019. Not just for me, but for the other women. We can change. Here, miracles can happen. She was again granted parole in 2003 and published a book called Eating the Ashes, seeking rehabilitation within the U.S. penal system. Compton was interviewed for Peacock's The Hillside Strangler, Devil in Disguise, recalling Bianchi's manipulations. Why did the case against Angelo Buono almost fall apart? The preliminary hearing to determine whether there was enough evidence to put Buono on trial for the Hillside Strangler murders lasted 10 months. In November 1980, Buono's house in Glendale, where authorities believed most of the killings took place, had been bulldozed to the ground after Buono signed over the deed to a nearby glass shop. His shop, in a refurbished garage next to the house, remains standing. A judge ruled in March 1981 that the case could go forward, setting trial for September. But once Bianchi was in LA to testify, he started to write letters to his psychiatrist and a lady friend from jail saying that he actually didn't remember killing anybody and he didn't really know if Buono had anything to do with the murders. He simply told prosecutor Roger Kelly that he had agreed to a plea deal to save his own life. He became so unhelpful, the LA County District Attorney's Office moved to drop all 10 murder charges against Buono in July 1981, explaining to the judge that they didn't think they could convict him beyond a reasonable doubt without his cousin's testimony. Superior Court Judge Ronald M. George denied the motion, with local prosecutors unwilling to keep going. The case ended up in the hands of the California Attorney General's office, then headed up by George Bookmejian, who went on to be elected governor in 1983, and jury selection finally got underway on November 16, 1981. It only took 3.5 months to seat a jury. What was learned about Bianchi and Buono at trial? Start to finish, Buono's murder trial lasted more than 23 months, making it the longest criminal trial in California history. The jury heard 56,000 pages worth of testimony from 400 witnesses and were shown 2,000 exhibits. In 1976, Buono let him stay in a spare bedroom, and Bianchi, who fancied his cousin a real ladies' man, promised he'd move out as soon as he was settled with the job. At one point, Bianchi tried to join the Glendale Police Department but couldn't pass the exams. He found a job with the California Land Title Company and moved into his own place, an apartment in Pasadena in the same building as art student Christina Weckler. But Buono, already familiar with hiring prostitutes, decided they should try their hand at being pimps. In October 1977, he purchased a list of potential clients from a sex worker he knew named Deborah Noble, who later testified at his preliminary hearing that on the night she delivered the list, she brought several colleagues with her to Buono's shop, including Yolanda Washington. Bianchi testified that their last victim, Cindy Hudspeth, was a spur-of-the-moment decision. When Bianchi showed up around closing time, they quickly consulted and decided to kill her. They flipped a coin to see who'd get to strangle her, Bianchi said, and he won. In 1979, Bianchi told police that one night in late October or early November of 1977, he and Buono stopped a young woman on the street in Hollywood. The woman said her wallet had been stolen, but she had papers identifying her as Catherine Lorre, and old pictures of her with the German actor Peter Lorre fell out of her purse. The star of Em and the Maltese Falcon was her father. She told them she was on her way to an appointment and her ride was waiting for her, and she was able to walk off into the night without incident. The New York Times called it a relentlessly unpleasant film. Was Angelo Buono Jr. found guilty of all 10 murders? Buono was first convicted on October 31, 1983, of the murder of Lauren Wagner, after which the jury, sequestered for the deliberations, went back to discuss the other 9 counts. Bianchi testified that they had tried to electrocute the teen at Buono's house, accounting for the burn marks on her hands, but failing to kill her that way they strangled her like the others. Prosecutor Roger Boren acknowledged at the time that Wagner's murder was their strongest case, so they were heartened by the verdict. On November 4, Buono was found not guilty of the murder of Washington, the alleged first victim of the Hillside Strangler. We all have to reach a judgment day, and you don't get away with nothing. Ultimately, Buono was found guilty of 9 murders and, against the recommendation of prosecutors Boren and Michael Nash, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Not to impose the death penalty simply cheapens the lives of these girls, Boren told the jury before they deliberated on the penalty. Detailing the various life milestones denied to Buono's victims, the Deputy Attorney General added, "The most appropriate punishment in this case, the only thing that's right in this case, is putting him to death for the dark deeds of 9 he committed." Where are Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi now? In 1986, Buono married Christine Kazuka, a mother of 3 he met when her previous husband spent 5 months in a cell next to his while serving a term for assault with a deadly weapon. Buono, who had heart trouble, died in his cell at Calpatria State Prison of natural causes on September. Meanwhile, Bianchi married Shirley Joyce Book, who started off as a pen pal, in 1989, meeting her in person for the first time the day before their wedding. He was denied parole on his first attempt in 2010, and he can try again in 2025.